What's up, guys? This is my crossover. I'm back with a new episode of What If Naruto Was Speed Dot Part 2. And if you did enjoy this video, give this video a like. And if you're new to my channel and like my content, subscribe and hit that notification bell for more crossover fictions with a twist. Now let's begin this new video.
Chapter 3. No more God of Speed. Start talking, Batman instructed to Superman's clone and the rest of the sidekicks. A bolt of lightning struck immediately behind the clone as Robin opened his mouth to speak. Everyone was knocked down, with just Superman still standing. As the smoke cleared, everyone pushed themselves up to watch, and a young lady of around 16 with waist-length blonde hair was vibrating extremely quickly in front of them all. But it wasn't Kid Flash's main concern.
Was there anything about a naked chick in the files? He asked Robin, flushed. Not that I know of, the matching Red Robin answered. The girl looked about for a bit before coming to a halt when she saw Flash. Barry, murmured the girl as she reached out for him before collapsing asleep and the vibration stopped.
The following day, Wonder Woman, dressed in civilian clothes, checked on the girl who had appeared at Cadmus the night before and discovered her sleeping well. When she reached back to replace the pillows, a hand grabbed her wrist. She looked down at the girl, who was now completely awake. Wonder Woman staggered back after being hit in the face by the girl. The girl then blurred out of the room, and Wonder Woman took over the building's speakers.
The girl is awake, she murmured, taking long breaths, and she has no idea what's going on.
While trying to absorb what had transpired, the girl ducked inside a broom closet and took several deep breaths. She groaned when she felt her chest, then between her legs. She dashed out of the broom closet and down the corridor.
Hi, I'm Wally, he said as he ran beside her. How about you stop running and we grab something to eat?
The young lady rolled her eyes and glanced forward. She turned up the heat and dashed through the wall, while Wally fell face first into it. As she was immediately winded, the girl took several long breaths before looking at her vibrating hand, which was wavering between going rapidly and stopping. Please, calm down, Aqualad murmured as he approached. We do not wish to harm you. The female stared at Aqualad before sprinting around him, trailed by lightning. Aqualad cried in agony as he was struck by the lightning emitted by the girl. The girl kept sprinting through the halls of what appeared to be a technologically advanced cave until she slid to a halt in front of Superman's clone. Stop right there, he exclaimed. The girl's eyes glowed as she broke into a sprint and passed through the portal between them. She blasted him out of one on the clone's right with a supersonic punch. The girl felt her power leave her as she fell to one knee and stared at her hand, which was no longer vibrating quickly. She heard something above and rolled out of the way as Robin landed next to her.
Just listen to us, the boy Wonder cried, we're here to help you.
I can help myself, the girl stated as she charged.
Robin moved out of the direction of the punch, but only got so far before the girl knocked his knees out from under him, landing hard on his back. The girl then dashed towards the exit before Flash could stop her. You know, this is a really strange way to thank us, he remarked.
The girl took a step back and looked around to discover that she was surrounded by Justice League members.
The girl moaned in defeat and raised her hands to face the other League members.
A long story short, so, you used the speed bomb to stop Dr. Carver, and that's the last thing you remember? Batman inquired.
Yeah, the girl answered, looking away. Don't worry, Flash reassured, we'll get you home in no time. Good luck, sarcastically remarked the girl. This version of you has a better chance of banging Wonder Woman than I do of getting home. Wally chuckled, but then stopped when Wonder Woman gave him a glare. Martian Manhunter appeared, accompanied by a young girl of his species, and Batman introduced them. The girl walked away, but the little girl Martian Manhunter had brought with him saw and approached her. Hi, I'm Megan, the cheerful Martian girl remarked, but you can call me Megan. And you can just fuck off, the human girl muttered as she walked down the corridor, leaving everyone speechless.
Hey, Robin called after the girl, apologize. And why should I? The girl retorted, I'm grateful that you all helped me last night, but that doesn't mean I have to do what you all tell me. Megan tried to follow her into the hallways of Mount Justice, but Martian Manhunter stopped her by resting a hand on her shoulder. She just needs time to adjust, Martian Manhunter stated.
Megan returned her gaze to the darkness of the hall before returning to the others.
When she was a safe distance away, the girl came to a halt and leaned against the wall. She started crying and slipped down to the floor.
Weeks later, Megan entered the room Naruto, as they had discovered her name was using as a lab bedroom to find the girl working on a gigantic contraption. So, what are you doing? Megan inquired anxiously.
Building particle accelerator, Naruto explained as she went through certain details. That sounds exciting, Megan responded with a bit more assurance.
Not really, Naruto replied. I had to design this one to melt down. Why? Megan inquired, puzzled. To try and regain my speed, Naruto stated as she examined a computer. I got my speed when the particle accelerator on my Earth exploded. Obviously, this is on a much smaller scale, so it doesn't cause as much damage. Megan followed Naruto out the door as she wrote something on her computer. So, what was your world like? Megan wondered across a telepathic link.
As she fingered the white ring on his right middle finger, Naruto ignored the voice in her head. Mom, Naruto lamented as she reached the training area and saw Superboy sulking around.
I wonder why Superman never comes here, Naruto remarked cynically. Maybe it's because he just sees you as a worthless knockoff of him. What did you say? Superboy questioned. He probably just thinks you're not worth his time, Naruto mocked, smiling. Superboy raced forward, roaring. Naruto deflected the attack and used momentum to turn the clone onto his back. Naruto grinned as Superboy was charged again. He fell on the floor after she tripped him.
If this is how good you are, Superman will never think you're anything more than a poor imitation of him, Naruto joked.
Superboy stood up and peered over his shoulder. I hear an alarm, he remarked, perplexed.
Naruto cocked an eyebrow before sprinting down the hall, her eyes bright. The entire mountain began to tremble, and Naruto slumped up against the wall before pushing herself up and continuing to run. She dashed down the corridor to her room, but the door exploded, unleashing a wave of energy that knocked her off her feet and down the hall. Megan shouted, Naruto, as she and Superboy dashed to her side.
Superboy flipped her over and lifted her up after noticing she was unconscious.
You get Black Canary on the line, Superboy replied, and I'll get her to the Megan nodded and proceeded to the communications room, while Superboy bolted.
After 10 minutes, Megan approached Black Canary as she emerged from the
So, how's Naruto? Megan inquired. Well, I don't know much about particle accelerator explosions, so I asked Barry to stop by and take a look, Black Canary explained as a scarlet blur dashed into the room, and while he's doing that, just by a physical examination, she's as healthy as she was when she showed up at Cadmus. Why did you build that particle accelerator? Flash inquired.
I need my speed back, Naruto explained. I have to get home.
The League told you that, Flash began. I couldn't care less about the League, Naruto murmured as she closed her eyes. I just want to see my kids.
I understand you miss your kids, Flash replied, but these things take time.
When was the last time you couldn't tell your Iris that you loved her? Naruto inquired.
Naruto stood up while Barry remained mute. That's what I thought, Naruto stated as she approached the door before coming to a halt. I wonder how you're going to feel when you fail to save someone close to you.
She stepped out the door, past Black Canary, Megan, and Superboy. Naruto grabbed her head and threw her against the wall.
You need to rest, Megan counseled as she approached Naruto to assist her. Naruto tried to shove Megan away but ended up knocking her to the ground. Both girls reddened as their lips touched an instant later. Naruto dashed down the hall as they scurried away from each other. Meanwhile, Megan caressed her lips and felt them tingle. Well, that was a little awkward, Flash muttered as he walked away. A few minutes later, Naruto was reading a book in the forest outside Mount Justice when she heard rushing wind overhead and returned to the entrance. Megan and Superboy emerged with Robin, Wally, and Calder just as Red Tornado landed. Is there a reason you're intercepting me outside the cave? Red Tornado inquired. They were wondering if you had a mission for them, Naruto yawned, closing her book. Mission assignments are the Batman's responsibility, Red Tornado explained.
But it's been over a week, Robin objected. You will be tested soon enough, Red Tornado interjected. For the time being, enjoy each other's company.
Red Tornado then went inside to be scanned by a computer. Naruto stood awkwardly next to Megan, putting her book in her jacket. She raised her head and stared up at the sky over her shoulder.
Is there something wrong? Robin inquired. It's nothing, Naruto muttered, looking away from the moon.
Let's take a look around the clubhouse now, Calder advised. Superboy, Naruto, and I live here, Megan explained. We can play tour guides. Don't look at me, Superboy muttered when Robin and Wally gazed at him before turning to face Naruto. The most I could tell you is where the training room is, the kitchen, and what remains of my room, Naruto replied.
Well, a private tour sounds much better, Wally remarked, trying to appear sly to Megan. Nobody said anything about a private tour, Robin argued.
Team building, Calder explained. We'll all go.
You five have a great time, Naruto remarked as she walked away. I need some time to myself.
You sure? Wally replied, trying to be pleasant with her. I'd love to see your room. My room is currently in ruins due to the particle accelerator I was working on malfunctioning sooner than I had planned, Naruto grumbled as she swept Wally's legs from beneath him. And second, you don't really have the right equipment for me. Naruto set out on foot toward town. While she was walking toward the park, she became depressed. Naruto sat on a bench and closed her eyes, gazing up at the moon. Be careful. Naruto's eyes widened, and she snatched a ball that was flying right at her face. Sorry, an 8-year-old girl in a wheelchair approached with an assistance dog. I didn't mean to throw it that hard.
It's okay. Naruto smiled as she handed the ball to the girl and began patting the dog. Who's a good boy? You are.
Naruto scratched the dog's belly as it rolled over on its back. He doesn't really take to strangers that easily, the girl observed.
I have that effect on people and animals, Naruto explained before turning to face the girl and saying, I'm Naruto, by the way.
I'm Mina, the girl announced confidently, Mina Dewan. When Naruto heard that name, he froze before immediately brushing it off. That's a nice name, Naruto remarked, forcing a smile. So, how did you end up in a wheelchair? I've been like this for as long as I can remember, Mina remarked, motioning to her legs. I mostly stay at the hospital, so I've never really gone to school. Oh, Naruto expressed sympathy. When I was born, I didn't get to leave the hospital for over a year.
So, you couldn't be with your mommy or daddy? Mina inquired, surprised. No, Naruto replied with a shake of her head. My mommy and daddy went away for a long time a few years ago, and I haven't seen them since.
That's so sad, Mina replied. It's fine, Naruto assured. I had all my friends cheer me up.
I don't have any friends, Mina lamented. When Naruto gazed at the girl, a light bulb went off in his head.
Hey, what's the one thing you want the most? Naruto inquired. Huh? Mina asked, her head tilted. What do you mean?
Is there anything you want? Naruto inquired. Anything your mommy and daddy haven't been able to do for you? You name it, and I'll make sure you get it. Well, Mina thought as she considered the question, I want to go to outer space.
Naruto simply blinked, caught off guard. Why do you want to go to outer space? Naruto inquired. I love looking at the stars, Mina stated before glancing at the moon, and I can see the moon all the time from my hospital bed when I look out the window. I want to be an astronomer when I grow up.
Naruto smiled and hugged her. I promise I'll make that dream of yours come true, Naruto stated.
Really? Mina inquired. It's a promise, Naruto assured as she moved back. Mina, an adult said, it's time to head back to the hospital. Coming. Mina yelled back, I'll see you later, Naruto.
See ya, Naruto answered with a smile. Let's go, boy, Mina said to the dog before walking up to the person who had summoned her.
Are you sure you can keep that promise? Naruto looked around for the source of the voice, but there was no one nearby. Why do you want to help that girl? Who's there? Naruto inquired as he spun around.
Answer my question. She, Naruto began before a knot formed in her throat, has the same name as my wife from my world. I see. I understand your anguish, Naruto Uzumaki. I can assist you, I can even cure your illness. How? Naruto inquired of the voice she still couldn't place.
Be my servant, obey my commands, and I will give you power to replace what you have lost. When an explosion erupted in the distance, Naruto turned to investigate. I accept, she stated firmly. Turn your gaze to the heavens and gaze upon me. Naruto raised her eyes to the sky and gazed at the moon, feeling something stir within her. After 2 minutes, I'm waiting for a real hero, exclaimed Mr. Twister as a revving sound emerged from above. The young heroes gazed up at the building's roof just as a white motorcycle flew off and exploded in Mr. Twister's face.
The ejected rider landed on one knee and slowly stood up. The individual was wearing a long white cape with a hood over their head, as far as the young heroes could tell. Mr. Twister, on the other hand, could tell the person was female based on the contour of the silver armor covering her torso, but her face was fully concealed by the hood, with just glowing white eyes visible.
I am Moon Knight, the woman introduced herself to Mr. Twister, and my master has declared that you must be stopped. And are you going to provide me with an actual challenge? Mr. Twister inquired, pointing his palms at Moon Knight. Moon Knight raced forward, pulling a staff from her boot.
Megan, read their minds, Calder said, find his weakness and who she is.
But I thought I wasn't supposed to do that, Megan expressed concern. It's okay on bad guys and those we don't know about, Robin hurriedly stated. Megan focused as Moon Knight dodged Mr. Twister's wind blows. She opened her eyes with a slight crunch. I can't read anything from them, she said. Moon Knight backed up and flung her fist forward, unleashing a stream of water that came out of nowhere right towards Mr. Twister, who was guarded by a wind barrier.
I must admit that you amaze me, Mr. Twister said, but it won't be enough. Moon Knight stared at Mr. Twister before tossing her staff aside and drawing 2 silver daggers. As the youthful heroes neared, she flung them back, causing them to come to a halt.
This is no ordinary battle, Moon Knight declared. We're not children, exclaimed Wally, and we know who that is and what he wants.
Moon Knight sighed as she shook her head. My master sees everything on this earth, Moon Knight explained, but he is not who you think he is.
And just who do they think I am? Mr. Twister inquired. Take a wild guess, Moon Knight remarked as her daggers disappeared and she fired a pistol at Mr. Twister. As he chuckled and lifted his hands, the bullets harmlessly rebounded off him, causing storm clouds to collect and whirl about him. An impressive show, Calder observed, but we will not engage. When lightning struck, Wally became nervous. Could Red Tornado do that? He inquired. Do you think I'm Tornado? Mr. Twister chuckled, ironic. The ground beneath their feet was ripped apart by lightning, and Moon Knight shielded herself with her cloak as she and the others were knocked back. Superboy rushed into the air in rage to attack Mr. Twister, but was knocked back by a shot of electricity from the robot, causing him to skid back till he was next to the others. Mr. Twister arrived as Moon Knight threw her cloak over them all, making them disappear from his sight.
Fine, Mr. Twister said as he came to a halt, I won't deny you children have power, but playing hide and seek with you would not help me achieve my goals, so stay hidden. If you confront me again, I will show no mercy. Moon Knight then flew away toward town, removing her cloak from everyone as it reduced to its original size. What happened? Wally inquired. Are you all idiots or what? Said Moon Knight as she removed her hood and revealed herself to be Naruto. Did you really think Red Tornado would put you all to the test by putting civilians in danger?
What's up with the new getup? Robin inquired. Sighed Naruto, turning away, I don't have time for this. She turned just as the previous motorcycle approached behind her, and she hopped aboard. She started the engine by flipping up the hood. Next time, don't be so naive, Moon Knight said as she dashed off toward town. You are a strange individual. Isn't that why you chose me? Moon Knight questioned as she raced towards the metropolis.
She increased her speed as she noticed Mr. Twister in the distance. She dashed through the streets before the motorcycle vanished and she took off running. Bailey, yelled a voice that made Moon Knight freeze in her tracks.
She turned to see Mina rolling around, looking for her assistance dog. Bailey, where are you? She cried out, terrified. Moon Knight saw Mr. Twister coming their way and dashed for the crippled girl. Moon Knight grabbed Mina and jumped away just in time as Mr. Twister unleashed the natural disaster. Mina was taken aback when she looked up at Moon Knight. Moon Knight discovered a group of people and landed in front of them. She looked at him as she handed Mina over to him.
Get her to the hospital right now, Moon Knight said before returning to deal with Mr. Twister.
The reprogramming won't take long, Mr. Twister said as the cables from his fingertips sought to reprogram the downed Red Tornado. Longer than you may think, Megan replied as Red Tornado's head transformed into her own. No, Mr. Twister exclaimed, before Megan launched him into the twister produced by Wally. The villain was flung at Superboy, who caught him and punched him in the chest several times.
He then punched Mr. Twister in the face and threw him into the harbor. Mr. Twister spun around under the water to see Calder strike a broken pole against his chest and channel electricity through it, sending him flying back out of the water. Megan then lifted him into the air before telekinetically ripping off his remaining arm. Before Megan let Mr. Twister fall to the ground, Robin threw numerous explosive boomerangs at him.
The youthful heroes crowded around Mr. Twister as he rose to his knees and ejected a man from his chest. Foul, the man in pain exclaimed, I call foul.
Moon Knight landed on top of him, stabbed him through the skull with her 2 blades, then dropped a grenade on him and jumped away. The grenade burst behind her, and everyone else took a step back in disbelief at what had transpired.
I'm not sure how things work on your planet, Robin exclaimed passionately, but here, we don't kill captives. He wasn't even human, exclaimed Moon Knight as she snatched Robin and hurled him into the crater where the robot's remnants lay. My master told me this before I fought him the first time. Who is this master you keep speaking of? Superboy inquired. Moon Knight flicked her thumb up towards the moon, drawing everyone's attention to it. Be real, Wally remarked, the moon is your master? The Egyptian god of the moon, Khonshu, actually, Moon Knight explained, but he speaks to me through the moon. When did you get these powers? Calder inquired. Oh, a couple of minutes ago, Moon Knight responded, swiftly checking the moon's location in the sky. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go check up on someone.
She began walking, then came to a halt. Change the cave's computer to recognize me as Moon Knight, okay. Moon Knight requested before the light around her bent and she vanished.
After an hour, Mina sighed as she gazed out her hospital room window at the moon.
Beautiful, isn't it? Moon Knight inquired from the shadows. Mina leapt in surprise and gazed at Moon Knight as she emerged from the shadows. Who are you? Mina inquired. I am the moon's will given physical form, Moon Knight explained as she took a seat at the end of Mina's bed to gaze at the moon with her.
Thank you for saving me, Mina said as she hugged Moon Knight.
Moon Knight was taken aback by the hug, but she returned it.
I met someone earlier, Moon Knight explained, and they said you wanted to go to outer space. You saw Naruto? Mina inquired, her voice worried. Is she okay?
Naruto is fine, Moon Knight promised. I made sure she got somewhere safe. Thank you, Mina said once more as she released go of Moon Knight.
I promise you that one day I'll take you up there, Moon Knight assured. You have my word on it. She walked over to the window and opened it. Wait, shouted Mina, don't leave just yet. I must do what the moon commands, Moon Knight stated before a thought came to her. She raised her hand, and the moonlight seemed to transform into a necklace with a crescent moon inside a circular pendant. She approached Mina and draped the necklace around her neck. Whenever you want to see me, spin that moon, Moon Knight explained, day or night, if you need me, I'll appear no matter what.
She then returned to the window and leapt out. Mina observed Moon Knight's shadow appear before lying down and falling asleep, the pendant of her new necklace gripped securely in her fingers.
After 5 minutes, Moon Knight has been identified. B9 to 9.
Moon Knight ascended Mount Justice by the actual entrance and took a deep breath before removing her hood and her clothing evaporated, leaving her wearing jeans, sneakers, and a white hoodie. She strolled down the corridors until she came across Megan, who was leaning against the door to her room.
Can I help you? Naruto asked as she arose, not looking at Megan. Well, Red Tornado wanted me to tell you that you did a good job out there, just like the rest of us, Megan stated nervously. I don't need anyone's thanks, Naruto replied as she resumed her trek. By the way, Megan said hurriedly, Red Tornado said you'll be staying in my room until we can get you another one. Naruto sighed and followed Megan into her room. Naruto sat down on the bed, and before Megan could say anything, Naruto had passed out. From Naruto's dream, Naruto blinked as she gazed upon the familiarity of her home on Earth before sensing something was amiss. You never cease to surprise me, a familiar voice said from behind her. Naruto whirled around to see Barry Allen beaming back at her.
You, Naruto realized, you're the Speed Force.
That I am, Barry said as he reclined on the couch. Using that speed bomb was a tricky deal. What happened to my speed? Naruto wondered. I took it back, Barry explained calmly. I figured you wouldn't need it anymore.
You don't understand, Naruto continued, I have to get back home. Don and Don need their father.
Why should I give you your speed back? Barry asked calmly. You used it to kill people when you had it last. Naruto began before faltering and turning aside in embarrassment. Your mother was an interesting person, Barry observed as he rose up and went around Naruto, becoming into Sakura in the process. She begged for someone to allow her to have children. I took pity on her because of all the hardships in her life and decided to send a piece of myself into her. So, I'm actually a part of you? Naruto inquired. Yes, Sakura soothed Naruto as he followed her into the kitchen, but your connection to me was broken, which caused your speed sickness. But it's gone now, Naruto explained. Khonshu got rid of it. No, he didn't, Sakura answered as she perched on the counter. He just suppressed it for a while. The only way to be cured is to regain your speed. Then let me have it back, Naruto responded. I'll think about it, Sakura replied as she leapt from the counter into Naruto's arms, morphing into his mina. If you can prove to me that you deserve your speed, I'll return it to you. After kissing Naruto, her entire world went black. This is your target, Raz Al Ghul stated, handing a photo to a man in a black cloak. You are to observe, and if she gets in your way, eliminate her. Before the photo dissolved in his grasp, the man stared at it. He then transformed into a black cloud and soared away into the sky. Earth 1, you failed, a distant voice said. Dr. Carver jumped out of his jail bed and looked around, terrified. He approached the door and peered around, horror on his face. You failed, Carver, the voice repeated again. I'm sorry, Carver said as he backed away slowly, looking around. Please, let me try again. He took a quick look around before backing up against the wall. A metal claw then grasped his neck as he appeared to be staring death in the face. Carver shrieked a split second later. Wally strolled inside Mount Justice's dining room, and his mouth began to wet at the sight and scent of exquisite cuisine that was nicely placed. "Oh, hello, Wally," Megan remarked as she entered. "I think I'm in heaven," Wally mused. "Well, if you want, you can eat all you want," Naruto remarked cheerfully as she snatched Wally's arm and dragged him over to a chair. She sat Wally and ordered him a T-bone steak. "I made that special for you," Naruto replied flirtatiously before kissing Wally on the cheek and hopping into the kitchen. Megan approached Wally as he began digging. "Don't you notice anything odd about Naruto?" Megan inquired cautiously as she examined the back of Naruto's head. "Not really," Wally responded as he chewed a bite of steak. Naruto returned with chocolate souffle, which made Wally's eyes shine with delight. Naruto placed it in front of Wally, who was about to devour it when Naruto grabbed the back of his head and pushed him face first into it. Wally sat up immediately, and Naruto gasped in terror. "Oh, my gosh," Naruto sighed, "I'm so sorry." "It's okay," Wally commented as he took a bite of the souffle, "it's actually pretty good." "It's supposed to be the most delicious thing you've ever tasted," shouted Naruto, grabbing Wally by the neck and hurling him through a wall. Superboy, who was walking down the corridor on the other side of the wall, glanced in as Naruto smiled at Megan. "Would you like anything, Megan?" Naruto inquired softly. "No thanks," Megan answered with a terrified smile, "I'm still full from the best dinner I've ever had last night." "Well, I guess I'll just make some cookies for Calder and Robin when they arrive," Naruto remarked as she returned to the kitchen. "Okay," Wally conceded, "something is definitely wrong with her." A half hour later, Naruto entered a sitting area with her head bowed and sat on one of the couches. In discomfort, she lied down and groaned quietly. "It's nothing the league or the team needs to know about," Naruto said, finally noticing Black Canary, who was seated across from her on the couch. "You've been acting strangely since you got these powers," Black Canary observed. "I've already told her that she doesn't need to know about it," Naruto responded, slightly agitated. "But I really think you should," Black Canary began before Naruto groaned. "Don't make me lock you two up for a week," Naruto grumbled. "I'm tired of you both coming out at random times and I just want to relax." "Who are you talking to?" Black Canary inquired. "Just some voices in my head," Naruto grumbled. "I haven't gotten a good night's sleep since they started." "When did these voices start appearing in your head?" Black Canary inquired. "About 2 days ago," Naruto explained as she lay onto her side, "the day after I got my POW."
Naruto began to snore, and Black Canary exited the room.
From Naruto's dream, Naruto took a peek around her old house and noticed something in the kitchen. She went inside and discovered her Barry and herself sitting at the dining room table. "Ah, and here's our dear friend," Barry observed Naruto. The other Naruto turned to face her, revealing silver eyes. "Would you like to join us?" said the other Naruto. "Am I dreaming, or is this really happening?" Naruto wondered. "A little of both," Barry said as he sipped his drink. Naruto sat down, a bottle of sake in her hand. She drank a fifth of the bottle before turning to face her silver-eyed counterpart. "Can you please not take that form, my lord?" enraged Naruto.
"I think I look rather dashing," Khonshu replied as she flung her hair behind her back.
"I was a boy on my earth," Naruto said to Barry. "Why do I suddenly have an innie instead of an outie?" "It was the only way for you to survive," Khonshu explained as she took Naruto's bottle and drank heavily. "What she means is that the energy from the speed bomb was tearing you apart," Barry stated. "As I said the last time we spoke, I found you interesting." "What does that have to do with me becoming a girl?" Naruto wondered. "When you stopped, Dr. Carver, the resulting burst of lightning destroyed your body," Barry stated. "You were nothing more than a simple thought that refused to die. You were losing strength while you were back with the Speed Force, but I heard you," Khonshu explained as Barry transformed into Mina, "and you had said that you would accept any form as long as it was human. I figured out what you looked like before, but I couldn't specifically assign you a gender." Naruto attempted to finish the remaining sake but ran out of the bottle. "Am I going to be stuck like this for the rest of my life?" Naruto wondered. "If you ever regain your connection to our friend, you will," Khonshu stated as she went over to the fridge and took out a bottle of beer. "But since my power is the dominant one on this earth, you'll be a female as long as you're without your speed." "This is a lot to take in," Naruto exclaimed, frustrated. "You'll get used to it," Mina replied as she ate her sandwich. "By the way, since this is in my head, where are?" Naruto began before hearing footsteps behind her. "I'm so glad you came," screamed a small 8-year-old girl with white eyes and dark blue hair, wrapping her arms around Naruto. "I finally get to see you after so long." "There's one right there, and the others." Khonshu saw the young child in the far corner. He resembled Naruto when she was about 12 years old on her Earth. Are you coming to join us? Mina inquired. The child scoffed and averted his gaze. Return to the real world, so? Megan said as the entire crew waited to hear what Black Canary had discovered. The good news is that she has no physical problems, Black Canary replied as she folded her arms. And what's the bad news? Robin inquired. She's developed multiple personalities as a result of her powers, Black Canary revealed. And one of them is violent, Wally grumbled as he fought to regain feeling in his shoulder. A scowling Naruto appeared behind Black Canary as the door behind her opened. Sorry we woke you up, Calder apologized. Whatever, Naruto replied before looking to the side and sighing, I'll be back in a bit. She threw up the hood of her sweatshirt, revealing her outfit before disappearing into the shadows. Anyone have any idea where she goes when she does that? Superboy inquired. Mina sighed as she glanced at her jewelry. You called? Moon Knight inquired as she emerged from the shadows. I'm worried about Bailey, Mina expressed concern, I haven't seen him in days. Moon Knight sat at the foot of the bed, taking a big breath. Bailey won't be coming back, Moon Knight lamented, he's gone. Gone where? Mina inquired, perplexed by Moon Knight's words. He's gone to live on a farm, Moon Knight explained.
Well, can you go get him back? Mina asked, hoping. I'm sorry, Moon Knight said, but that is the one thing I cannot do.
Oh, Mina murmured, her voice gloomy. Don't worry, Moon Knight reassured, I will find you a new friend. Moon Knight stood up to go when a tall figure clad in armor burst into the room and trapped him against the wall by the neck. What's going on? Mina asked, frightened looking around. Moon Knight, what's going on? Who are you? Moon Knight wondered as she battled to take a breath. Savitar, the guy said, the god of speed. The door flew open, allowing Superboy and Wally to enter. When Wally saw Savitar, he screamed, who's that guy? Who are you talking about? Superboy inquired, looking around. There's no one else here. Let's go for a run, Savitar stated before vanishing in a flash of lightning with Moon Knight. What's going on? Inquired Calder as they watched the tracker on Moon Knight emerge randomly all over North America. She's all over the place. I don't know, exclaimed Robin as he attempted to capture Moon Knight. It's like she's everywhere at once. But that's impossible, Megan pointed out, she doesn't have super speed anymore. But what if it's not her moving that fast? Black Canary pondered as she took out her phone and dialed, hey, we need your help. Savitar dashed through the Speed Force, tossing Moon Knight to the ground. He smacked her in the back with his fists before punching her numerous times. He then snatched her and dashed through the Speed Force. He then threw Moon Knight, allowing her to roll and fall on the arid ground before resuming his pursuit on her. After that, he dumped her in Central City. Moon Knight moaned in pain as she struggled to rise to her feet. Had enough? Savitar asked as he came to a halt several feet distant. Moon Knight rose to her feet and took only one step before being knocked to the ground by Savitar. Savitar kicked her aside before coming on the other side and striking her back. Moon Knight had only a split second to scramble to her feet before Savitar stabbed her in the chest. Moon Knight grumbled as she attempted to flee as Savitar approached her. Hard to believe that woman thought you could stop me, Savitar remarked. I thoroughly enjoyed watching her die after I killed her husband. You killed my parents, Moon Knight said, blood dripping from the corner of her mouth.
You are nothing without your speed, mocked Savitar as he seized Moon Knight's neck and squeezed. I am the one, true, god of speed. Moon Knight choked as her vision blurred. A crimson streak passed by and pulled Moon Knight from Savitar's grasp, while a white streak knocked Savitar aside before disappearing. Savitar looked around and shouted before disappearing.
Is she going to be okay, Max? Inquired a masculine voice, causing Moon Knight to tremble. Your guess is as good as mine, Johnny, a feminine voice replied. I'm just wondering what Savitar could want with her. Moon Knight raised her eyes to the two speedsters who had saved her. One was a blonde dressed in red spandex with gold pants, gloves, and red boots. The other was a woman with long red hair in a ponytail who was dressed in a white suit, blue pants, boots, and blue gloves. Both were dressed in domino masks that made it impossible to identify what their faces looked like. Moon Knight took off her hood, and her costume disappeared. Naruto fought to stand, but fell and was caught by the woman. You need to rest, the woman said as she helped Naruto to his feet. You've got too many injuries. I don't need your help, yelled Naruto, pushing the woman aside and stumbling over to an empty phone booth. She answered the phone and dialed a number before hanging up. Moon Knight has been identified. B9-9 Naruto vanished in a flash of light, leaving the woman irritated. Everyone stared at the Zeta beam platform as Naruto arrived and suddenly collapsed. Naruto! Robin cried as everyone rushed over. Megan assisted her in getting up, and Naruto opened her eyes and smiled faintly at Megan. "You know, you're pretty cute," Naruto whispered softly before kissing Megan on the lips. Everyone was taken aback, including Megan, who was taken aback even more. Naruto separated from Megan and collapsed in her arms. Megan lifted Naruto with her powers and took a deep breath. "I'll take her to my room to rest," Megan remarked as she prepared to depart. Warning. Alert. Intruder. The alarm went off, and everyone turned to stare at the Zeta beam platform, where two figures appeared in a blaze of light. "We're not here to fight," the man stated as he raised his hands, "we're just here to make sure that girl is okay." "A likely story," Wally replied as Megan backed away slowly with Naruto. "Well, with Savitar after her, you're going to need all the help you can get," the woman explained. "Savitar?" Calder inquired. "A speedster like Max and I," the man explained. "We've been after him for a while, but it appears his goal has always been that girl." "I told you I didn't need your help," yelled Naruto as she collapsed to the ground and pressed up against the wall. "Savitar isn't just any ordinary speedster," the man explained, "he's the first speedster." Naruto panted and staggered along the hall, trailed by Megan. "Who exactly is Savitar?" wondered Black Canary. "I believe introductions are in order first," the woman said, motioning to the man. "This is Jonathan Chambers. But you can call him Johnny." The woman then motioned to herself, "And I'm Maxine Crandall. But you can call me Max. And on our Earth, we are known as the heroes Max Mercury and Johnny Quick. My name is Black Canary, and I'm a member of the Justice League, along with Robin, Kid Flash, Superboy, and Aqualad." "So, who is Savitar, and why does he want Naruto?" Calder inquired. As Johnny previously stated, Savitar was the first person to be endowed with speed, Max explained, and he only appears to speedsters powerful enough to challenge him. "But Naruto isn't a speedster anymore," Superboy pointed out. "Doesn't matter," Johnny replied as she and Max sat down. "Anyone who has touched speed is fair game to Savitar. Over time, he became the god of motion, the fastest of us all. Normally, before Savitar graces an Earth with his presence, he sends a predecessor to prepare for his arrival. But nobody has even appeared yet to signal his arrival," Robin pointed out. "So, why is he here?" "Apparently, he has a future deal with that girl and he wants to end her quickly," Max explained. "We need to protect that girl from Savitar before she gets killed." "Naruto, you need to rest," Megan murmured worriedly as Naruto entered what was left of her room. "Leave," Naruto said. "No," Megan insisted, "not until you tell me what's going on." Naruto collapsed at her desk and sobbed. Megan approached, shocked, as Naruto held the ring on her right hand. He killed my parents," Naruto murmured. "Savitar, he killed them." I'm sorry," Megan apologized as she hugged Naruto, "but we will stop him." "This is my business," Naruto responded, pushing herself up to her chair. "If you want to help, get me some of the fuel that I had for my particle accelerator." "You're going to rebuild it?" Megan asked, surprised. "No," Naruto answered, pulling out a stopwatch. "Besides, I'll need Wally or Flash's help soon. Now, leave me alone with my work." Megan appeared unsure, but she made her way to the door. "Before I go, I just want to tell you something," Megan said as she came to a halt at the door. "You're a good kisser." Naruto was relieved Megan couldn't read his thoughts as she went to work. Megan entered the main area to find everyone discussing a strategy with Flash. "All speedsters can locate each other through their connection to the Speed Force," Johnny explained as a map appeared on the computer. "However, this mountain is capable of blocking all signals from the Speed Force. She should be safe if she stays here," Flash explained. "Savitar won't find her here." "Does anyone know where I can get some plutonium?" Megan inquired as she approached. "Why do you need plutonium?" Max said as everyone turned to face her. "Naruto asked me to get her some," Megan replied, slightly perplexed, "but I'm not sure why." "Wait," Wally replied, looking at Barry, "wasn't plutonium in the particle accelerator at Central City's STAR labs when it melted down?" Flash and the other two adult speedsters exchanged glances before dashing down the hall. When the trio stormed into Naruto's room, they felt an unexpected weakening in their bodies. "I didn't actually expect you all to come here this quickly," Naruto said as she continued working on a stopwatch while wearing magnifying lenses. "Now, if you all could keep running in here for a bit, I'll be done shortly." "Why are you trying to build a particle accelerator?" Johnny inquired. "I'm not," Naruto answered calmly as everyone else entered the room, her gaze fixed on the stopwatch. "I just told Megan that so you three would rush here. I actually needed your excess speed force energy that you give off when you run. And why would you need that? Black Canary inquired. Because if I want to make a speed bomb, I need speed force energy, Naruto explained as she took a little fuse from her bag. A speed bomb? Shouted Robin, almost forcing Naruto to blow the fuse. Not so loud, snarled Naruto angrily. Do you want me to blow up this mountain by accident? Why would you want to make one? Calder wondered. Isn't that what brought you here in the first place? Naruto sighed and put down the tweezers she was holding. On my 10th birthday, my parents were murdered, Naruto stated depressingly. That night, there was a storm of lightning inside my house, and I couldn't exactly use the speed force, but I could see that what caused the lightning were speedsters. And one of them was Savitar, Superboy guessed. Everyone returned their gaze to him before returning their gaze to Naruto, who had bowed her head. He crushed my father's neck with his bare hands, Naruto remembered. He then tried to kill me and my mother when a person in white chased him around the house to try and stop him. The next thing I know, I'm 2 miles from my house. When I get back, my mother is lying in a pool of her own blood. Naruto closed her eyes and glanced at the half-completed speed bomb. This speed bomb is the only way I can match Savitar's speed, Naruto explained, and I have to do it to avenge them. Even if it's only for a short time, we need every chance we can get to defeat him. But getting yourself killed isn't the answer, Wally remarked, anxiously gazing off to the side. Naruto's expression changed as she followed Wally's gaze. Give that back, yelled Naruto as she raced for Robin to reclaim a canister he had stolen. Black Canary swiftly tied a collar around Naruto's neck while Flash, Johnny, and Max restrained her. I'm sorry, the female Justice League member apologized, but we can't have you leaving the hideout. As they all went, Naruto stared at Black Canary, and Calder stole the incomplete speed bomb. Naruto dashed toward the door, but it closed and latched behind him. Let me out, yelled Naruto, pounding on the door in vain. Are we truly acting correctly? Megan inquired as they returned to the main area. She needs to be kept safe from Savitar, Max explained. That means she needs to stay here. Wait, Robin replied as an idea occurred to him. What was Naruto doing when Savitar first discovered her? She was at the hospital talking to A. Superboy said before realizing what he was saying and surprisedly looked at the speedsters, a patient that she'd been visiting for the past couple of days. Everyone else noticed what was going on, so the 4 speedsters fled, arriving at the hospital a minute later to find cops already there. Can you tell me what happened? As they all approached the cops, Flash inquired. A girl went missing from the hospital, the cop continued. One moment she was being evaluated by her doctor and the next she was gone. Everyone is looking for her because she is diabetic and hasn't received insulin in nearly a day. This is bad, Wally said. She needs that insulin or she's going to go into shock. Well, if we were on our Earth, we could actually cure the diabetes, Johnny replied. But we're not on our Earth, Max retorted. We need to split up and find her. We can use our abilities to track Savitar's trail, and we're likely to find the girl, Flash explained, and I'll bring Wally with me. You two start traveling across the country, trying to find all of Savitar's hot locations. Johnny and Max nodded before departing in different directions. Naruto continued to pound on the door inside her chamber until her expression grew terrified and she clenched her hand, gritting her teeth and pulling her fist back as the collar around her neck began to smoke. When the banging suddenly stopped, Calder and Superboy stared towards Naruto's door, only to be knocked into the opposite wall as the door flew out of its position, while Moon Knight towered above the falling heroes and went down the corridor. Everyone, Naruto has escaped, Superboy thought through a metal link Megan had set up. How, though? Never mind, Black Canary said urgently. We must prevent her from escaping. Calder and Superboy stood up and pursued Moon Knight. Moon Knight came to a halt for a second and peeked over her shoulder before continuing, then swung around and grabbed the invisible Megan by the throat. Give me one reason why I shouldn't claw out your throat, Moon Knight said. Megan gagged and held up an incomplete speed bomb, which Moon Knight snatched and dropped Megan to the ground. Why are you assisting me? Asked Moon Knight. You and I have a lot in common, Megan said as she stood up. We both belong somewhere we don't belong, but we found people to help us get through it. Moon Knight averted her gaze while she considered something. Can you density shift a part of your body? Asked Moon Knight. Just my hand, Megan explained. I need you to do something for me, Moon Knight explained. After 3 minutes, when everyone entered, Moon Knight and Megan dashed through the hangar into the bioship. What are you doing, Megan? Exclaimed Robin. Megan was grabbed by Moon Knight, who held a knife to her neck. One more step and she dies, Moon Knight threatened. I can't believe you would do this, Calder exclaimed. We're your friends. I don't recall ever saying that I was friends with you people, Moon Knight stated as he and Megan carefully backed away from the bioship. You're holding me prisoner here. Only to keep you safe, Black Canary continued, Savitar is going to kill you. It's not for you to decide whether or not I die, Moon Knight remarked as she stepped into the bioship. It's always been my choice, and I decided this a long time ago. Moon Knight took a big breath and went to sit down, flipping her hood off and her mask dissolved, but her suit remained. Thank you for believing in me, Naruto said. Just be careful. Megan expressed concern as a work table emerged next to Naruto, who sat down and placed a crystal shard next to the speed bomb. Don't worry, Naruto replied as she went to work, I will. The next day, when Flash and Kid Flash approached, an extremely pale and sweaty Mina shuddered as she lay close to a river. Good, Flash remarked, relieved, she's safe, and no sign of Savitar, Kid Flash added. Savitar came behind them, as if on cue, and both speedsters spun around. Please tell me you see him, Kid Flash begged. Oh, I see him, Flash remarked, taking in the sheer magnitude of Savitar. We need to take him together, Kid Flash stated emphatically. No, Flash responded, looking at his partner, I'll cover Savitar. You medicate her and transport her to the hospital. Kid Flash dashed over to Mina and grabbed out a syringe, but was caught by the throat and vanished with Savitar. It's going to be okay, Wally replied as he inserted it in the girl and she glanced at him, let's get you to the hospital. Mina's eyes began to droop, and she held up her necklace, weakly rotating the inside while she mumbled under her breath before collapsing. Wally grabbed her up and raced away. They reappeared in an ally and Savitar threw him against a wall. He then picked up Flash by the leg and swung him into a dumpster before throwing him against a second wall. Before Flash could hit the ground, Savitar grabbed him and ran up the side of the building and onto the roof, throwing him into a storage container before throwing him back into the ally. Flash grunted as he struck the ground and crawled against the building as Savitar materialized in front of him, catching him and throwing him back against the wall. This is not your fight, Alan, Savitar yelled. Flash stood up after two blurs knocked Savitar down. Do you remember us? Max inquired as Savitar gazed at them. You, snarled Savitar. You're not getting away this time, Savitar, Johnny declared. Do you think I didn't realize you were following me? As he charged, Savitar questioned himself. Naruto took a deep breath and closed the back of the stopwatch. Done, Naruto murmured, relaxing somewhat. Are you certain you can defeat Savitar with that? Megan inquired. I have to try, Naruto murmured, flipping her hood back up. Moon Knight raised her head and stared down at the ground. Let me out here, Megan, exclaimed Moon Knight. Moon Knight rushed out of the bioship, plunged straight to the earth, and landed with a loud boom. She looked up just as Kid Flash ran out of the hospital, and took a step back in astonishment. How did you escape? He inquired. Move, Mina, yelled Moon Knight as she brushed Wally aside and dashed into the hospital room. Mina, where have you gone? Before entering an exam room, she began pushing physicians and nurses aside and pushed everyone away from the young girl. Don't even think about touching her, yelled Moon Knight, knocking all the physicians to the ground and picking up the girl. She exited the room, and Kid Flash stepped in front of her. What are you up to? She'll die if you take her, exclaimed Kid Flash. After Moon Knight launched a flashbang on the ground, everyone shaded their eyes, and Kid Flash hurried around the hospital, trying to find Moon Knight and Mina, before running outside to watch the bioship land and Megan emerge. Can you tell me what happened? She inquired. Naruto just ran in and abducted a little girl, Wally explained. What? But, cried Megan, that doesn't make any sense. We need to get back to the cave right now, Kid Flash stated as they boarded the bioship to return home. Moon Knight sat Mina on a slab with lit candles around it, looked at the moon, and raised her hands while chanting in ancient Egyptian. A silvery light came down from the moon and began enveloping Mina's body, but it quickly turned black, knocking Moon Knight off her feet. Moon Knight raised her head and saw the light had vanished. No, Moon Knight exclaimed in anguish as she stood up. She stumbled over to Mina and embraced her tightly while crying behind her mask. You exaggerated your ability. You have taken away everything except a few months of her life. Please, Master, the Crescent Moon pleaded Moon Knight, give me the power to stop the one who took Mina. I am giving you my entire body. You're intriguing. Very good, I'll accept your gift. Moon Knight screamed in anguish as she transformed into an intense and bright silver light after being struck by a beam. Megan and Wally jumped out of the bioship as soon as it touched down. Megan, shouted Martian Manhunter as he rushed over to his niece and hugged her, I'm glad you're okay. I'm fine, Uncle Jean, Megan remarked as Wally approached them. What's going on here? He wondered. How did Naruto get out? Come, Martian Manhunter murmured as he approached the door, Batman will explain. Megan and Wally followed and entered the main area, where they discovered nearly every member of the Justice League as well as their comrades. There will be time for pleasantries later, Batman stated as they walked in. For now, we need to discuss dealing with Savitar. According to our new speedster friends, Savitar was the first person to be given speed and is far faster than anyone since, Black Canary stated, and he now sees Moon Knight as a threat even though she no longer has her speed. She also just kidnapped that girl Savitar took from the hospital in Central City, Wally explained. What? Exclaimed Black Canary, stunned. My wife, a garbled female voice said. Moon Knight emerged from the shadows and entered the room carefully. When Moon Knight came to a halt some yards away, everyone prepared to attack. On my Earth, Mina's counterpart was my wife, and I swore to protect her. She is my responsibility, Moon Knight explained. It doesn't matter if she was your wife on Earth, Superman remarked, you still kidnapped her. To heal her, Moon Knight said, I tried to heal her and failed, so I gave my body to my khonshu to exact revenge on the one who made her this way when I took her and killed my parents. Naruto, this is crazy, protested Superboy, Flash, Johnny, and Max all fought Savitar and they couldn't even make a dent in him. I am not a normal girl, Moon Knight stated, holding out a stopwatch, I am Godspeed. Superman charged just as Moon Knight slipped into the shadows. Where did she go? Batman inquired angrily. Robin accessed the computer and retrieved a map. She's right in the middle of downtown Metropolis, Robin observed as he read it. Everyone, get to Metropolis, Batman ordered, there will be a lot of casualties if this gets out of hand. When the Zeta beam platform exploded, everyone ran for it. She must have known we'd try to find her, Green Arrow stated. Captain Marvel, Hal, John, and I will fly on ahead, Superman remarked as the three he was referring to flew through the roof. Moon Knight emerged from the shadows of a tree in the midst of Metropolis and approached a junction. Cars swerved out of the road and collided with others, resulting in a pileup in all directions. Savitar! Exclaimed Moon Knight, clutching the stopwatch tightly, I'm right here. If you want me, I'll fight you at full strength. Moon Knight yelled and pressed the stopwatch button. An explosion erupted from the watch, and the dome of energy that shot out from her obliterated almost everything around her. It quickly engulfed the entire city before collapsing in on itself, reforming all it had destroyed, including the inhabitants, as a bolt of lightning struck Moon Knight and blew everyone off their feet. In her place strode the male Godspeed, dressed in the mantle of the Moon Knight, cracking with lightning and heating the air. Savitar emerged several yards ahead of him, and the two locked gazes. I have ripped apart dozens of different Earths that refuse to kneel before me, Savitar stated. I have destroyed you countless times, and now you shall taste defeat once more. You've done enough damage, Savitar, Godspeed growled, clenching his fists. All those different versions of me were lacking the one thing it took to defeat you. And what would that be? Savitar inquired. A thirst for vengeance, Godspeed said before being shoulder-tackled by Savitar.
Godspeed returned and bounced on the ground, tearing up the roadway beneath him.
All the different versions of you had tried to stop me, but none had succeeded, reprimanded Savitar. They should have known not to challenge a god.
I'm the god of speed, not you, Godspeed declared as he began to hover above the earth and face the enemy speedster, and I'm going to kill you. Godspeed shot at Savitar at incredible speeds, knocking him off his feet and through a structure, causing it to collapse. Savitar gained over by tossing Godspeed into another structure and jumping in after him.
The huge speedster crouched over as lightning flashed from his hands and all over his body, blasting into the foundation of the structure they were in. Godspeed levitated as the ground underneath her collapsed, just as Savitar regained control. As the structure began to collapse, Savitar jumped out, while Godspeed wheeled around and pursued him. A piece of falling rubble, however, hit him and pushed him off path, sending him straight into the bottom level of a parking garage. Godspeed went out as if nothing had happened and ran toward Savitar, jumping over a fuel tanker thrown at him. The resultant explosion shattered the parking garage's support, and Godspeed turned around. Savitar, sensing an opportunity, delivers a powerful blow to Godspeed, knocking him to the ground. Anyone looking would think two blurs were moving swiftly before one was knocked back. Godspeed dodged Savitar's assault, then threw a left hook that knocked Savitar back several steps. Godspeed arrived immediately next to Savitar and threw him to the ground. The automobile dropped on top of Godspeed just as he was about to deliver the killer blow, forcing him to shake it off and giving Savitar enough time to deliver a strong kick to the face. Godspeed landed on the ground, and the moment he stood up, Savitar punched him into the air. Before hovering in the air above the chamber, the golden speedster only caused slight damage to the skyscraper he was knocked into. So much for avenging your parents, Savitar mocked. You are just as pathetic and weak as that whore who gave birth to you. He sprinted up the building while Godspeed followed, and they clashed in the center. With Godspeed right on his tail, Savitar was sent soaring at an incomplete building. He emerged from beneath the floor just as Savitar charged at him with a steel girder. A bolt of lightning flashed from Godspeed's palm, breaking the girder apart before Savitar smacked him with the shards and sent them into some reinforced pipes. My first kills were my parents, Savitar explained as he tossed the girder aside and Godspeed rose. They tried to take my power away from me, all because they were afraid of what I could do. So, I sent out to kill every version of them in the multiverse and take out anyone who would try to stop me. Every version. Godspeed whispered as he stared up at the wicked speedster. That means you're. Savitar ripped several pieces of his armor off his body, then moved his arms and legs around a little, the remainder clattering to the ground. Godspeed was taken aback by the sight of the face they shared, and Savitar smiled. Surprised? Savitar asked, opening his arms. I knew all along that the only person who could truly stop me was myself, so I even killed my counterparts to prevent them from attempting to take my throne, and you were the only one to escape. Godspeed jumped at Savitar and turned him around, launching him through the steel foundation and into the sky. Savitar broke loose with a punch that knocked Godspeed back before flying toward him and kicking him away. After landing many blows on Savitar, Godspeed managed to restore his calm before he and Savitar resumed playing cat and mouse while soaring through the city. Godspeed came to a halt when he lost sight of Savitar, but when he turned back, Savitar flew through the building, knocking him into another. Godspeed appeared out of nowhere and dragged Savitar along the side of a building. Godspeed attempted a punch, but Savitar blocked it and hit Godspeed in the chin with an uppercut. Savitar grabbed Godspeed's cape and swung him around, then let him fly through numerous buildings as he flew up into the sky. Savitar seized Godspeed and shot him high into the air just as he had managed to slow down enough to get moving again. Superman, 2 Green Lanterns, and Captain Marvel arrived and assessed the damage. We need to find anyone who didn't get out, Superman remarked to his Justice League colleagues. Superman, Captain Marvel remarked, pointing up in the sky behind the Kryptonian. Superman turned around in time to watch several flaming fragments of a satellite fall to Earth. He did, however, see 2 people fall to the ground. When Savitar and Godspeed collided with a railroad station, everyone inside screamed. Savitar managed to elude Godspeed for a brief period before being tackled to the ground. When Savitar observed some individuals across from them in a corner, Godspeed managed to wrestle him into a chokehold. If you truly are different than me, then save these people, Savitar murmured before lightning flashed from his eyes. As Savitar's lightning approached, the individuals in the corner huddled together. Godspeed attempted to halt Savitar but was gradually failing, the lightning only inches away from the people. Stop! Godspeed yelled as he attempted to stop Savitar. As Superman and the others approached, Savitar screamed firmly, never. In a blind anger, Godspeed snapped Savitar's neck. The lightning was quenched instantaneously, and Godspeed let Savitar's body fall to the floor. As he sank to his knees, Godspeed took deep breaths and noticed his hands sputtering. He then gazed at the Justice League members before returning his gaze to the ground. Make sure his body is destroyed, Godspeed instructed. I'm sorry. Godspeed vanished in a flash of lightning, and the Justice League rushed up to the body. 12 years ago on Earth 1, Godspeed landed in his old bedroom and exhaled deeply. Mommy! Exclaimed a voice all too familiar. Godspeed dashed to the door and opened it a little to see his mother screaming and horrified as 2 blurs sped around her, trailed by lightning. Naruto, run! Exclaimed Kushina. Everything came to a halt when the source of the gold lightning halted, and Godspeed realized it was himself. When Godspeed saw him, he shook his head, as if to say, don't stop this. He was gone in an instant, and Savitar stood over Kushina. He stabbed her through the abdomen with a blade from his armor. As Savitar retracted the blade and vanished, Kushina's body tensed. Godspeed rushed to his mother's side and knelt beside her. Hey, Godspeed whispered as he gently embraced her, you're going to be okay. Please, Kushina begged, losing strength while crying, my husband, my son, are they? Godspeed withdrew his hood, and his mask crumbled to reveal his face. It's me, Mom, Naruto screamed out, your little speedster is here. Naruto. Kushina apologized as she extended her hand to him. It's all right, Mom, Naruto told her as he continued to cry, I'll be right here. Naruto. Kushina began to lose her breath, I love you. I love you, too, Mom, Naruto murmured, taking Kushina's hand in his and pulling her into a loving hug. He sobbed into her hair as he felt the electrical activity in her brain stop. He remained like that for a moment before stifling his tears and repositioning his mother, her hand in her husband's. He glanced at them for a moment before flicking up his hood and disappearing, his mask reappearing. Earth 16. Present, a bolt of lightning struck immediately behind Megan, Calder, and Green Arrow as the Justice League and the younger heroes helped clean up Metropolis and hunt for survivors. As Godspeed moved painfully toward them, his suit collapsed, leaving a still-clothed but severely injured female Naruto. Naruto managed to walk a few more feet before succumbing to her injuries and collapsing on the ground. Naruto! Screamed Megan as the three of them dashed over to await the arrival of the rest of the league. Calder assisted Naruto in getting up and placed her arm over his shoulder. Hey, Naruto began, a feeble smile on his face, have you ever tried shawarma? There's a shawarma place just down the street that I've always wanted to try. Megan burst out laughing and hugged her pal. The following day, Naruto entered the main room of Mount Justice with her arm in a sling, and the entire crew turned to look at her. Shouldn't you be resting? Robin inquired, you were nearly killed yesterday. Do you know how fast speedsters heal? Naruto smirked, and since I was in the moonlight, I was able to heal even faster. Do you still have your speed? Superboy inquired. No, Naruto answered, shaking her head, it appears to be gone for good, and I'm sorry for what I did yesterday. Everything is forgiven, Calder remarked as he approached her and placed his hand on her shoulder. Besides, even if you don't have your speed, you're still a member of this team. Everyone gathered around Naruto and greeted her as a new member of the team. Man, I could really go for some food right now, Flash muttered as he headed out the back door. Barry, shouted Wally, surprised, are you okay? Do I need to lecture you on the powers of the Speed Force? Joked Naruto. Don't worry, Wally, Barry reassured. Besides, I need to get home in time to tell Iris that I'm fine. He then turned over his shoulder and asked, you two want anything? I honestly could go for some waffles, Johnny stated as he emerged from the rear with Max. How about you, Max? I wouldn't mind some muffins and coffee before we head home, Max murmured, rubbing her temples. Think you could whip some up for us, Naruto? Flash inquired. Naruto trembled as she glanced at Max and Johnny's unmasked features. She bolted down the hall, surprising everyone. Naruto, wait, said Megan as she pursued the girl. I told you it wasn't a good idea to mooch off these people, Max growled, elbowing Johnny in the ribs. As Megan approached, Naruto sank on the ground and sobbed. What's wrong? Megan inquired. It's them, Naruto sobbed, they look exactly like my parents. They said their mother's maiden names were Chambers and Crandall, which I should have remembered. Megan embraced Naruto and let her cry. They don't know that, Naruto, Megan continued, that they're your parents' doppelgangers. Do you want me to tell them that you had to leave? Calder inquired as he entered the hall. Naruto shook her head and took a big breath as she cried. At a later date, Naruto was alone in a Mount Justice sitting room with Johnny and Max, holding a dish of cookies that hadn't been touched. Naruto was staring at the floor, while Johnny and Max remained mute. So, were your parents doppelgangers? Johnny inquired. Yes, Naruto answered after a long delay. Max ran her fingers through her hair as she attempted to take it all in. I know this is a lot to take in, Naruto explained, but I just thought you both deserved to know. Well, Johnny and I were thinking about having kids, Max replied hesitantly, her gaze fixed on the ground. And knowing that Savitar is actually the son of our doppelgangers is a lot to take in. She then approached Naruto and hugged her. But it's even more comforting to know that you're also the child of our doppelgangers, she gushed. Naruto burst into tears as Johnny joined in. Well, we need to get back home, Johnny stated after a minute of cuddling. And where's that? Naruto inquired. I believe you'd call it Earth 9. Max wondered of Johnny. Well, you'd better get going, Naruto remarked as she took a step back. Johnny and Max donned their masks and began vibrating. Naruto stood there watching as they ran out of the room, running by her many times before leaping into a breach just in front of her. Are you going to be okay? Black Canary inquired as she approached the end of the passageway. Yeah, Naruto answered, taking a big breath before turning to the elder woman, and, by the way, can you put me in touch with Superman? I need to ask him for a favor. That evening, Batman and Superman stood by as Moon Knight introduced Mina to Crypto, her new assistance dog. Are you sure it was a good idea to let Crypto do that? Batman inquired. Well, she did make a convincing argument to try and persuade me to give Crypto to that girl, Superman replied. Besides, she wants that girl to enjoy what little time she has left. Moon Knight looked them in the eyes and nodded before closing the curtain and returning to her game with Mina. She gasped in pain and looked at her hand, which was fading away. Fortunately, Mina was focused on crypto and didn't notice. Moon Knight took a deep breath and softly left as her hand regained its strength. A body bag was rolled into a coroner's office under tight guard, with the coroner entering shortly after. "Thank you for being here, gentlemen," the coroner remarked as she passed between the two troops, "but I'm afraid you won't be needed." The coroner pulled out a revolver and shot both males in the head at point-blank range before tossing the gun away. "I hate using these things," the coroner admitted as she unzipped the body bag. She looked at Savitar's body before placing his hands on his chest. She grabbed a glowing stone from her pocket and placed it in the hands of Savitar. Before being engulfed by it, an unsettling light encompassed Savitar's body. Nothing happened for a few moments, but then Savitar's eyes opened wide. Moon Knight emerged from the shadows behind him as a man in a trench coat strolled along an alley. "John Constantine," Moon Knight stated softly. The man turned around and didn't seem shocked to see Moon Knight. "I didn't realize it was Halloween yet," he said. "I'm not here to play games with you," Moon Knight stated as she approached him. "I'm here with a proposition." "And what, pray tell, could someone possessed by the Egyptian god of the moon want with me?" inquired Constantine as Moon Knight came to a halt several feet away. "What if I told you I wanted to put together a team secret from the Justice League that deals with problems they don't even know about?" Moon Knight inquired. "Problems in your area of expertise?" Constantine folded his arms and sat down to contemplate. "There are things going on that the League is unaware of, particularly down in Hell," Moon Knight explained. "It will be too late once the League learns about it, and we cannot let that happen." "When do we begin?" Constantine inquired. "Welcome to the team, Hellblazer," Moon Knight remarked as she extended her hand to Constantine. As thunder rumbled around them, Constantine shook Moon Knight's hand. A guy with a dark cloak and a skull mask watched the two from above before dissolving into smoke and flying out into the gloomy night. To be continued.
That's it for this podcast. Thanks for listening to this video. If you did enjoy this part of the story, like, share and subscribe for more, and thank you all for happy support and have a great day.